Curran, Chair of Resource Management, and thank you for coming this afternoon. First order of business is a pledge to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. First order of business is a roll call.
Mr. Curran,
Here.
Mr. Sear,
Here.
Mr. Barnes,
Present.
Mr. Demick, Mr. Fanton, Mrs. Hanchett. Here. Mrs. Ricketts Swales.
Here.
And Mr. Harris. 5 present, 2 absent.
Okay, very good. Ask for approval of minutes of December 21st, 2022.
Hanchett moves.
Hanchett, second.
Ricketts Swales will second.
Ricketts Swales, second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And I understand at this point that we have a good story coming from Craig. Welcome.
Good afternoon. His comment is based on the fact that we just talked out in the hallway. An announcement first, if I can beg your indulgences, please. A few weeks ago, a man named Jim Ninos from Alfred and our county planner, Kier, and I got together to talk about having a memorial service for 2 very, very special people who have not been acknowledged in that regard since their deaths. Bill Heaney and Lee Gridley, 2 of the greatest contributors to our county's betterment in my memory, which is lengthy. So we finally chose a date, and it will be on Saturday, May 20th at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so we don't blow the whole day, if you will. It will be at St. Patrick's Hall in Belfast. Kurt Crandall will be speaking on behalf of the Board of Legislators, and we have yet to decide how many individuals will speak for a maximum of 3 to 5 minutes, because there's this potential to be there for hours, as you all know. So everyone is cordially invited, and we do hope you will attend. Carol Ace from the restaurant is catering light refreshments. We want to have it no more than half hour, 45 minutes long, and the rest of the afternoon to talk with longtime friends, et cetera, et cetera. So please save that date. Those 2 people were extremely important in our lives in Allegheny County. All right, now on to today's subject. I forgot to call Tiffany with my title, and I talked to her a few minutes ago and apologize. So my title is Lucky Day, Lucky Deer. And if you are from the Fillmore area, Phil just looked up, he knew exactly where this is going. Well, we have to go back to 2 words in our vocabulary that are mistakenly used as synonyms. And those 2 words are extinction and extirpation. Extinction means a species is gone forever. Classic example, dinosaurs. Extirpation means a species is wiped out in a certain area due to ignorance, et cetera, but thriving elsewhere. Classic example is bald eagles with the DDT effects of the 50s and 60s that made the eagles and other birds of prey eggs in the food chain too fragile, and the females crushed the eggs sitting on the nest. Well, they made a remarkable comeback. When I got to the office this morning, the first thing Brian shows me is his phone, and on there is a picture of a pair of eagles sitting right out there, and I was exceedingly jealous of this wonderful picture. This is the mating season, and if you want to see the size of a nest and see eagles, just go about a quarter mile north of Crossroads on the right-hand side, back in the tree. It's one of those you can't miss it type things. So anyway, by 1900, white-tailed deer and turkey were extirpated from most of New York State out of sheer ignorance and greed on the part of people. There were no laws to protect them. There was no DEC. There was a fledgling organization and several others in the early days of environmentalists called Modern Woodmen of America. It still exists as a fraternal organization. And New York State realized there was a major problem. So starting in 1908, lasting until 1938 inclusive, big game hunting was outlawed in New York State by the state legislature. Our second of our two county history books, written in 1896 by John Stearns Minard or Menard from Fillmore, Hume, had a quote in there, and it said from a Whitesville area newspaper, 1881, that deer were spotted in Whitesville for the first time in many, many years. So it became a news item as they slowly disappeared. Well, the DEC, as we know it, didn't come into existence until 1970 in our lifetime. Well, first year that New York State opened deer hunting was 1939, and in that intervening 30-some years of no hunting, the stock built up, number of deer enlarged, and as did the size of the racks on the bucks that every hunter wishes to acquire. So, a man named Roosevelt Luckey, Luckey, from the town of Hume, was hunting on the Claybed Road and shot a 14-point buck, which is good-sized deer. And Luckey as a name from Fillmore ought to ring a bell, and I'm sure many of you are thinking about that. Yes, this Roosevelt Luckey is the great-great-uncle of Jeff Luckey, one of our staff members here. And I talked to Jeff this morning. He remembered his great-great-uncle very well. And he and his partner ran a Ford garage at the Four Corners in downtown Hume for many, many, many years. Well, the deer that Roosevelt Luckey shot scored 198 3/8 points on the Boone and Crockett system. And Boone and Crockett system is an extremely vigorous, rigorous scale for judging the size of a rack on the bucks. And there's two categories, typical and atypical. Typical is where the two racks are absolutely mirror images of each other. And atypical, they're all askew with every which way and an odd number of tines, et cetera, et cetera. And this one scored the highest of any buck ever killed in New York State. And most likely the record will never be broken because deer simply don't get that large anymore because of hunting. So hang on to that aspect of the large. Well, the DEC wound up owning this rack after it stood in this garage in Hume for a number of years. The DEC acquired it when it was deemed the largest ever and most likely never to be equaled. Well, it is now in storage in a climate-controlled vault in Albany, and most likely will never see the light of day again. Because of the popularity of that rack, people wanting to see it at gun shows, outdoorsman-type shows, et cetera, the DEC authorized a replica to be made. And this was accomplished. They took exact measurements, the exact size of the neck and the upper shoulder, torso, and a typical deer mount. And they hired a well-known, what they thought, excellent expert taxidermist to make this replica. Anybody know who it was? A man named Spinelli, who lives on Voorhees Hill Road in the town of Wellsville. And he was hired to make the replica. Well, he ran into major problem. Bear with me on this one. If you've been to the Florida Keys, there's two islands where there's all kinds of signs warning you of key deer, capital K-E-Y. And it's the smallest species of our ungulates, the hoofed animals. And an adult key deer is only about the size of a good-sized golden retriever or a German shepherd. They are highly endangered. No more than 200 exist probably. As you go farther north, the ungulates get bigger and bigger. We go from key deer to our white-tailed deer to elk to moose. And you get up to the North Pole area, north of the Arctic Circle and the boreal forest, and you have the musk oxen, massive things. Well, when Mr. Spinelli was hired to make this replica, he could not find a cape, meaning the deer hide, big enough to fit over the specifications of the Lucky Buck. So he had to go to Canada to get a deer hide the right size. And you can imagine the importation of that through the border. It must have been fun and games time. So now we come back to my original statement of Mr. Bill Heaney, the founding father of our History Awareness Week, which unfortunately died with COVID and when Bill died. And 5 years ago was our first one, and it was our first history awareness, and we asked our local historical societies and museums to put on displays. And somebody had the wisdom to ask the DEC for the replica buck. And when that morning we were setting up our displays, everybody was bringing things in through the side door of the patio there, the Wellsville Library, and the DEC trucks pulled up, and 3 great big dudes carried, with help of 4-wheelers carts, a massive box, highly insulated, reinforced box, barely got it through the double doors, and that was the Lucky Mount, the replica. And it was a thrill to stand there, and Mr. Spinelli was there and told everybody about the problem that he had with the buck. Well, so a monument, small monument to this buck is in front of the Town of Hume Museum, the only museum in the state of New York owned by a township. And Rhonda Miller was the town historian for many, many years, a dear friend of many of ours. And there's a nice monument to the Lucky Buck in front of that museum, appropriately right on the Claybed Road, Town of Hume. So that is my story for today. I will leave you with my topic so Tiffany doesn't have to worry next month, can have it correctly. And it's a homework assignment, easy one to find the answer, at least part of it. And my next month's program on February 15th will be about the most photographed person in the United States in the 19th century, 1800s. Who was the most photographed person? Easy to Google it and find the answer. And if and when you do that, then you have to ask yourself, what is this person's connection to Allegheny County?
Hold on a second. Can you give us a clue?
I just did.
Thank you for the assignment.
It was not Abraham Lincoln.
Thank you, Craig. That was an interesting story. Had not known that one. Okay, Mr. Perkins.
Good afternoon, everyone. I did submit my report to you. The bulk of it has to do with that Youth Leadership Forum coming up in Albany next month. And I'm going to just kind of jump right to that so that I can keep things moving, but also just put out kind of a request of sorts. So I did have a line for a couple of students that I thought were going to be interested in to attend this. So in the past, we've taken 2 students, we drive them up there, stay the night, bring them back, and that plan kind of fell through. So I'm just putting it out here now so that if anybody knows of any students that, have a particular interest in maybe government and want to go see Albany and meet some legislators, then certainly pass them along to me. I'd be happy to see if we can get something going to get them there. I do plan on attending with or without students because there's a lot that happens there for the State Youth Bureau stuff. So I'll try to make sure that we're there and represented as best we can. But absolutely, it's an opportunity to take students, and I can probably find a couple, or at least one in my own house that I could drag along if I had to. But I'd like to open that opportunity up to others that might be more into it.
Mr. Perkins, you
Yes,
said
sir.
you're looking for like 2 students or?
Yeah, so generally we take 2 students, and I mentioned in the report here that I connect with, she's the Youth Bureau in Salamanca, so they rent a car or a van and multi-passenger, so they'll pick us up on the way through, and then we go up there together. So kind of transportation's covered, hotel's covered, everything's covered except for, maybe a lunch on the way there that we'll stop
What's
along
the
the way.
date on that? We'll see if we can get
February 6th and 7th is what it is. So we'll leave on the morning of February 6th and come back on the 7th.
there. Best of luck, thank you.
Yeah.
Brian,
Yes.
have you connected with the county legislative program?
The,
The-
which one? Oh, the youth and government one
Yeah.
through like BOCES?
Yeah.
I see them once a year, and we always kind of remind them, so yeah, it kind of just fell through here, so as long as I'm here, I'm bringing it up.
You might reach out to
Yeah.
whoever's teaching that now and ask them.
Okay, that's a good thought, thank you.
So how's, anything else going on?
Nope, just
Pretty
getting
slow?
along with the beginning of the year stuff. They are looking for plans to come in a little bit quicker, seeing as it's going to be a shorter year, but everything's coming along with that, so,
All right,
thank you.
thank you. And Laura?
Well, it was a good segue, because I am discussing Albany as well. I'll be leaving on Sunday. No comment about conflict with the Bills game, because I'm heartbroken about having to be on the road during that time. But once a year, all the executive directors across the state go to Albany, and we meet with our elected officials. So we do it in little regional groups. We have Livingston, Allegheny, Cattaraugus, and Chautauqua, since we often, our borders share legislators. So it's a fun trip and educational for everybody involved. Otherwise, we do have a job opening for a SNAP educator. SNAP Education is our one of our nutrition programs that is a tri-county regional program. So we get our money in a bulk amount that's shared across Cattaraugus, Chautauqua, and Allegheny. So the position is open, and it'll be advertised until, I think, the 25th or 27th, something like that. So I think we've advertised it across the board. If you happen to know anybody, just feel free to send them my way.
Full-time, part-time,
Full-time,
full-time?
40-hour week, grant-funded, good benefits, great place to work, good boss.
Do they have to have education in
Yeah,
nutrition?
you know, it's different. So our FNEP position's a good question, Gretchen. Our FNEP position has a different educational requirement, and this one does have, they used to say bachelor's was required, but now they've sort of loosened that up because we weren't finding anybody. And so it's bachelor preferred, but associates in experience in some sort of human services. So it's pretty broad.
Good. Shouldn't be too hard to fill, I wouldn't think.
Well, okay, so originally when this whole thing started, they were requiring people with nutrition degrees. And so if you're competing with hospitals and retirement homes and other places that pay twice as much as what they were actually requiring a registered dietitian. We're like, that's just not gonna happen. So
Right,
you get what you get.
all right. Well, appreciate it.
Have fun, drive safe. Can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I still got another thing coming up,
Oh, sorry.
yeah.
okay. On you go.
So I don't have any, the ball's in your court, right?
I have no questions. Anyone? Anyone have any questions on the report?
Okay.
All
So
done?
don't we have my,
There's an
Oh, you have the MOE?
MOE asking for approval of the annual contract with Cornell Cooperative
Yes, I
Extension.
see that now.
The amount of $303,000 for the 2023.
So move, Seer.
Second, Ricketts Swales. Any discussion on this? It's pretty much the same every year.
yes, it is.
We do, yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Laura. Okay, now we've got some legislation from Brenda,
Yes,
clerk of the board.
the Soil and Water Conservation District Board requests the committee to consider appointing Adam Sear and Kevin Demick as legislative members on their board for a one-year term.
Hanchett moves.
Second,
Ricketts Swales will second that.
Ricketts Swales second. Any discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried.
The County Farm Bureau requests that the committee consider appointing Alan Davis of Friendship to fill the remainder of a 3-year term as the County Farm Bureau appointee on the Soil and Water Conservation District Board, and this is for a 3-year term.
Can I get a motion on this?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Ricketts Swales will second.
Ricketts Swales. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried.
The 3-year term of Rodney Bennett as an at-large member on the Soil and Water Conservation District Board expired December 31st, and the district has indicated they would like to have Mr. Bennett reappointed.
I'll ask for a motion.
Hanchett moves.
Hanchett, second.
Second, Ricketts Swales.
Ricketts Swales. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried.
The chairman of the board plans to reappoint Robert Chamberlain of Belfast as the landowner representative member of the Region 9 Fish and Wildlife Management Board for a 2-year term, commencing January 1st, 2023, and expiring December 31st, 2024. And that is subject to confirmation by the board.
Motion on that?
I'll make the motion.
Barnes moves, second.
Hanchett seconds.
Hanchett, second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay,
All I had.
thank you, Brenda. Old business? New business? Good of the order. Someone want to move in for an adjournment?
Sear will make a motion.
Adam?
Second, Ricketts Swales.
Swales. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.